So they traded Diontae Johnson to the Baltimore Ravens yesterday, which, hey, trading Diontae Johnson, good idea, get an asset. Of course, all they did really was move up 15 spots in next year's draft, and they're paying a good chunk of the remaining salary. It makes no sense to do what they did. Chris Lee, Panthers Playbook Podcast, WRAL TV 5, joins us on the Adam Gold Show. Sir, do you have any clue what they're thinking?
First off, thank you for having me. Good to hear your voice and everything. Honestly, I had to sit on this a little bit. The first 24 hours for this, it was a head scratcher for me. But as I kept thinking about it, I'm actually okay with this, just mainly because, like, in the times I've been in the Panthers locker room and the small things I've noticed on the field,
right.
Diontae Johnson has brought Diontae Johnson with him from Pittsburgh. Right, he's had a bad attitude. He's had some small, slight outbursts, and you have a nice core of young receivers right now: Jatavian Sanders, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, that you want to make sure kind of gets their career started off in the right way, and you don't want somebody like around that's going to kind of keep them or have them kind of start off on the wrong foot. And so, no, you didn't get a lot back from him. The money that you're paying is only for the rest of this season.
Right.
But other than that, I think it probably was something that they needed to do. And no, it wasn't a lot back. But if you look at what they did to get Diontae Johnson by trading away Diontae Jackson to Pittsburgh, you kind of have to look at it like, okay, this is what we have for Diontae Jackson now. So we're still able to have a chance to have a pick that for somebody who can potentially stay on our roster for a little bit longer in exchange for Diontae Jackson, who left at the end of last year because of a trade. So I'm okay with it now that I've slept on it.
All right. They would have gotten more in return had they just let Diontae Johnson walk into free agency. Even if they had allowed Diontae Johnson to stay away from the team for the rest of the season, and Diontae Johnson signed a 5-year contract, or not a 5-year, a 1-year, $5 million contract with another team, they would have gotten a 5th-round pick in compensation, one of those compensatory picks. In terms of the actual nuts and bolts of the deal, they would have made out better than they're getting right now from Baltimore. It really made no sense what they're doing. But I allowed for this, and I mentioned the conversation earlier that I had with Tim Donnelly, who follows me on the radio in Raleigh, that moving him to me was a future move to, just in case it didn't work out, you didn't want a disgruntled player hanging around. I had not noticed any of he was necessarily a problem for them, but I mean, you're around the team a lot more than I am, so I'm never around the team. So I will absolutely, understand your point.
Yeah, and it wasn't as bad as it was in Pittsburgh. Some of the things that we had seen or heard from in Pittsburgh, I don't think he was there long enough for that, and I think he kind of knew. But when you're starting to answer questions like, I can't play all 11 positions and make plays all over the field, I'm just one guy, you're slightly throwing people under the bus, right? And I could totally see a situation where if you have somebody who's just not a part of the program, just go ahead and just wash your hands clean of it. We've got something back, and we're gonna start anew. At least we have something from it. And I have to look closer into this, but I just read something right before you guys called me that the compensatory pick for him wasn't guaranteed. So I have to go a little bit further digging into that.
Well, it depends on how many. If you sign free agents, it's a net. It's always a net situation. But so you don't automatically get the compensation pick. But if you lose a bunch, and maybe the Panthers wouldn't lose that many free agents because not a whole lot of players attractive to sign in free agency. So it's not a guarantee, but a compensatory pick would come with it based on how many free agents you were to sign. in the offseason. Who knows? They might be super active. Chris Lee, WRAL TV 5 at Chris Lee TV on Twitter. So let me kick this forward because I've been very militant, almost baseball about it. If I were the Panthers, I would make a list of all of my assets, and they would all be available, every single one. Would you trade J.C. Horn?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think that they should go for the fire sale thing right now, and just mainly because I feel like you have certain pieces that you could still build around, and with a good enough draft and a good enough, I guess off season where you're signing free agents, you can get a little bit better. Look at the Detroit Lions under Dan Campbell. Wasn't really good the first year, okay the second year, third year they're taking off, right? Yeah. Not saying that this is exactly what's going to happen under Canales, but it is possible, and you have certain pieces that are there. I think they're set up great for the future when it comes down to offense and the skill positions. I really like what I've seen out of some of the guys that I've mentioned earlier, along with their offensive line. Really now you just need to get the quarterback situation together, right? And now, all the attention that you put together, put to the offense last offseason, this coming offseason, maybe you could put a little bit more attention towards the defense, to get some run stoppers, get some good tacklers, on there, right. Get some guys who can cover receivers and stuff like that, along with J.C. Horn. J.C., he may not want to be in Carolina. You can kind of tell with him, he wants to be in a place where fans aren't feeling apathetic, right, towards the team. But I do feel like he's a good piece to kind of keep around and to build around. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years, if you do the right things in the offseason, Dan Morgan, then, maybe it looks a little bit better for you.
Chris Lee is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Check out the Panthers Playbook podcast. He and Dennis Cox put that together. Just looking at their available draft picks, they have one pick in each of the first 4 rounds, 3 picks in the 5th round, and then 3 picks in the 7th round. They just dealt their 6th rounder in exchange for Baltimore's 5th rounder. How many? Because you think, I don't think they're just a quarterback away from being good. I think if you put the best quarterback, if you put Patrick Mahomes on their team, they would be better. But I think there's maybe 4 quarterbacks in the entire league that would make this team better. I think they're far enough away at so many of the other positions. Remember a couple of years ago, I think it was the second year of Matt Rule when they drafted everybody on the defensive side. I think they need another one of those defensive drafts.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It is going to take a little bit, but on the offensive side, I just kind of feel like everything is mostly there. You probably need one more receiver, a Diontae Johnson-esque player who's great at running routes, who could be that solid number one, because you don't quite have that yet. But you have guys that are, just are rising. So I'm not too down on the offense, and it really hasn't been the offense that has been losing the games as of late. It's really been defense. So yeah. I'm with you. They need to get some pass rushing because they have 0 right now. They need somebody that if Derek Brown were to go down again, then he's fine. They need somebody next to Trevin Wallace because, Shaq Thompson, love him to death. He's getting long in the tooth and he's getting injured every year right now. Right. So, and also I would be a fan of a new defensive scheme, probably a new defensive coordinator as well. So it's, there is a lot of work to do for this team. I'm not suggesting that they're going to make the playoffs next year or anything like that. But if you do the right things this offseason, you can get a little bit closer. If
the NFL expanded to all 32 teams making the playoffs, I give the Panthers a decent chance, at least 50-50, of making it. Chris Lee is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. What is your read? I know you and Dennis have talked about it. What is your read on how they have dealt with Bryce Young?
I originally didn't want them to bench Bryce when they did. My whole thing was, like, give him to the bye week, or at least closer to the bye week. And if, he hasn't been the guy since then it's okay to kind of scrap it, say we're going to move on and do your thing from there. I am not totally against, now that they've made this move, I'm not against them going with Andy Dalton, right, if that were to be the case. I do think that last year, and this is more than likely a David Tepper call. I don't want to bring Frank Reich's name into the mud anymore, but probably should have started Andy Dalton from the beginning and had Bryce Young, come off the bench at a certain point and stand there, be a backup, develop, and not just throw him into the fire at the very beginning and have him lose his confidence, because that's really what it is. Like, the guy lost his confidence. He's not the same guy that we saw at Alabama. So in the head. But, physically he's the same guy. So I think that's really what they could have done going forward. I'm just not sure. It's just depending on what they see. I'm not convinced he can be a starter just with what I've seen. But, again, maybe there's something else that they're seeing that could help him out in the future. But as of right now for 2024, if Andy Dalton is available to play, Andy Dalton has to be the one to start.
I think so. I just wish they would be more decisive with how they talk about these things. I think it would be better for their fans if they were a little bit more honest and upfront. Like when Dave Canales is asked yesterday or 2 days ago about who's going to start this week, and he kind of talks around what would have been very simple. Look, if Andy's thumb is healthy enough to play, he's going to play. Why is that hard to say out loud? I'm baffled by,
because they're not trying to make somebody's confidence who's already low even lower.
But they already benched him. They already benched him, and the only reason Bryce Young had played this past week was because Andy was in a car accident and sprained his thumb. So right. Dave Canales is treating his football team like they're children. They're grown men. They're grown men. These are professionals. It's not that hard, but they are making everything more difficult. So I don't know. I'm way because I have no emotional attachment to it. I am way radical about the way I would treat this football team. Chris Lee, and maybe that's bad. Maybe I'm reckless. It's very possible.
No, I wouldn't call you.
No, it's fine. It wouldn't be an unfair thing to say about this football team. If like Gold, you're being crazy, that would be okay. Because maybe they need a little crazy.
I don't think so. And you would like for him to just come out and say it. I kind of feel like he said it without saying it. He's made the blow a little bit softer, but but I'm with you on that. Like there needs to be something definitive so people know that this is Andy Dalton's team until further notice.
Just tell your fans. He's not speaking to us. He's speaking to them. Chris Lee, right. WRAL TV 5 Sports, at Chris Lee TV, Panthers Playbook Podcast. Go check it out. I thank you very much, man. We'll talk again very soon.
Thank you, man. Have a good day.
You got it.